You may have noticed a pattern appearing very, very, very clearly across all my recent videos when we've been talking about what reform are doing at the local council level, apart from, well, falling completely flatly on their faces and having absolutely no plan whatsoever when it comes to the environment, getting rid of flood defense committees, having absolutely zero idea or policy when it comes to things like send provision or anything like that whatsoever. No policies, no idea, because they're all waiting for all that stuff from Nigel Farage's office down in London that will then tell them what to do. And especially in some council areas, if you paid attention to your local politics, you may be very well aware of the fact that maybe your local council might not exist very much longer, because they're going to get folded into a larger sort of authority, because maybe having these smaller authorities isn't that all efficient when there are larger authorities that could take care of that job a lot more better. And this isn't a new idea, bear in mind. This idea has been around for a long, long time in these regards, to this type of stuff. And it was one of the big things that pretty much all the other parties had opinions, policies, and ideas about how that restructuring should take place. Now, in Nottinghamshire in particular, this is one of those areas where this is going to happen, where the current reform leader could lose his job if this restructuring goes ahead. So you would think maybe he would have a view on this. You should know the punchline now if you've been watching some of my videos. But anyway, before we do get to that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, of course, there are links to my Patreon page, the One Off Station link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. You can join as well. So let's crack on into this. And oh, look, surprise, surprise, here's the punchline. Reform's Nottinghamshire leader will not divulge view on plans that could scrap council. Only one of the biggest political shakeups in local government in years. He's got no view. He's no clue. And bear in mind, as you'll find out in a bit, he could lose his job if this goes ahead. Anyway, Reform UK's new Nottinghamshire County Council says he will not yet divulge his opinion on plans for the biggest shakeup in local government in over 50 years. These plans will mean that Reform's Mick Barton could technically end up being the last Nottinghamshire County Council leader, with the authority now possibly being dissolved. You would think, if that was the case, maybe this guy would have a view or something like that they would have something, a view, an opinion. Does he think it's good? Does he think it's bad? We don't know, because Nigel Farage has not dictated yet the information from the office to him. Like I say, they are all Farage puppets. Anyway, the government is abolishing, of course, councils throughout the country as part of a reorganisation of local government across the country. New councils are, of course, set to be created in place now of the 9 authorities currently dotted across Nottinghamshire. Options could, of course, include expanding coverage of Nottingham and the surrounding areas. The leaders now of all current councils have been meeting regularly since these plans last came out in December. And, of course, following the recent elections, Councillor Barton will, of course, be in those talks rather than his Conservative predecessor, Sam Smith. Yet, when asked what his thoughts were on the local government reorganisation, Councillor Barton said, "I've got my own position on that, obviously. Until I speak with my own group, I shan't be divulging anything. I've got my own personal feelings, and I'm going to be at the very forefront of those decisions. I realise that the East Midlands mayor and, of course, everybody is involved. Why not even give your opinion on this? But, of course, he's probably been told, "Don't pay attention. Don't do anything about it." Right? Anyway, Reform's leader, of course, Farage, told Nottinghamshire Live during the election campaign that he was, quote, not in favour of the local government reorganisation programme because obviously he would lose a council then at that point. The party leader went on to say, "Nobody has convinced me that devolution does anything more than take power away from local people. Whilst I do agree that the current system has gotten itself into terrible financial trouble, nobody's convinced me yet that going to a unitary route with a county now with one or even several times is now the better model than we currently have. I think we're rushing way ahead now of the seas of reorganizations that are not properly now thought through. I can't be convinced, but at any moment, I'm wholeheartedly unconvinced." So why didn't he say that? Like, why didn't, Barton, Councillor Barton, say that? Oh, that's why, because he's got no clue. He's got no direction yet. Not only that, this is being thought through. This isn't being rushed. They are already having meetings about this, about how this is going to happen. And this guy is going to be in those meetings, possibly even chairing one of those meetings. And what's he going to say about this? Nothing, because they've got no plans about any of this whatsoever. Anyway, Sam Smith, who now leads the Conservative opposition group, said that the residents, of course, need to know there are more than 12,000 signatures on the petition in the Rushcliffe now to stop a city takeover, and that, of course, remains a real risk, as does in Berkstow and Gedling. My worry is that Reform don't want local government reorganisation to happen in line with what Nigel's been saying. There is no use in saying it's not going to happen where a legal directive has now been sent out by the Secretary of State that it is going to happen. So we need them to be around the table for a strong voice for Nottinghamshire, as I was. Are they going to be a strong voice for the people of Nottinghamshire? Absolutely not. Anyway, Councillor Barton went on to say, "I am looking, of course, forward to those conversations and chats that I've got with my own thoughts that I'll share with the group. But obviously, until I share them with the group, I can't divulge anything because it's disrespectful." They've asked you a serious question about something that is going to really affect local politics, about the restructuring and organisation of the council, which he is now leader of. But he can't because he is so woefully underprepared for this position. Anyway, he said he's got my own thoughts, and obviously, I'm sure they've got their own thoughts as well. They're going to try and collate them and hopefully come up with a plan. Maybe you should have had a plan. Maybe you should have had a plan because all the other parties had a plan about this, had thoughts, had opinions on this, and what they were going to possibly do if they were in charge. Once again, Reform having zero plan in this. The current, of course, system involves Nottingham City Council managing all services in its area from schools now to social care. The rest of Nottinghamshire is then split into two, with the big county council running major services across the area, with now 7 smaller councils running localised services such as bin collections. The government, of course, plans will then involve a two-tier system of local government being scrapped, creating now a smaller number of new councils that will manage all services in their area, like Nottingham. The debate, therefore, continues, of course, about how the new councils should be structured. The 3 workable options that have been presented to the government, one which would have now the city council untouched, and one, the new council, covering all services in the rest of Nottinghamshire. There are, of course, 2 combination options, which would, of course, lead to a bigger Nottingham council. One would, of course, involve a new council covering the whole of Nottingham, Boxtow and Gelding, and the other would, of course, involve a new council covering the whole of Nottingham, Boxtowe and Rushcliffe. The government, of course, has now set a new deadline of this November for the plans now to be presented. Yet leaders say individual councils will now have to set their preferences out in July, ready for the summer consultation and, of course, November deadline. They've got no clue. Once again. And this isn't just happening in Nottinghamshire. It's happening in a couple of these councils, Leicestershire as well. Do they have a clue for that? No, they don't. Gee, I wonder how well this is going to go when you've got a leader that has zero plans for one of the biggest reorganizations of local government in decades. Gee, how well do you think all that's going to go? Let me know what you think down in the comments. But of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.